Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and there's some breaking news amongst the Commanders organization. With all of the off-the-field stuff that we have going on, all of the chaos going on as far as Dan Snyder settling the team, is Ron Rivera even going to be here next year? Logically, with somebody buying the team from Dan Snyder, everything timeline-wise makes more sense for Rivera to be here for at least another year, but now we're hearing that Scott Turner is definitely on the hot seat. Apparently, some Commanders players are frustrated with Scott Turner's predictable play calling and more. We're going to dive into all of that, and of course we got to dive into how likely it is that Scott Turner will actually for real not be our offensive coordinator next year. And if you feel a little iffy about an offensive coordinator, the sooner you move on, the better. Especially if Sam Howell you feel like is your franchise quarterback, you need to go ahead and get that next guy in here as soon as possible, like immediately after this Cowboys game, type of as soon as possible, and get them in the same room so they can go ahead and start working together. Or if you plan on drafting a quarterback, you want that offensive coordinator to already be here so that when you're going through the draft process and scouting and things like that, that offensive coordinator has a large say in all of that, and he's already installing the offense. Guys can work out in the offseason and things like that. They can start discussing the playbook. So a lot of stuff needs to happen as soon as possible. Again, don't be surprised if they move on from Scott Turner if it happens immediately after the Cowboys game, or if we even hear something like before the Cowboys game that he's gone, or maybe within the week after that, whatever. But we got to dive into what the players said, because there are exact quotes from Sam Fortier, who interviewed these players. He had to agree to make sure that their names were anonymous, but apparently he talked to specific players about specific things. And then we even have a quote from Logan Thomas himself about the offense as well. So we're gonna dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately, and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you pull up for the final game day live play-by-play live stream for this upcoming Cowboys game with Sam Howell starting. I'm really excited about that, and we're also going to see other younger players, some backups, go out there and play, so we'll get to evaluate a lot of those guys, so make sure you pull up for that. And of course, just because the Commander season is ended does not mean the Street Scores season is ending. I have plenty of draft content, plenty of free agency content I'm coming with, all kinds of stuff, so make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to start working on some film sessions a little bit sooner this year than normal. So make sure y'all stay tuned for everything Commanders, everything college football. I'm rooting for my Georgia Bulldogs to go win Monday. I'm really excited about that, but make sure y'all stay tuned for Street Scores, because it's so much content. Y'all know I do my best work in the offseason, so stay tuned. Without further ado, let's get it. And of course, we're also going to be doing the call-in shows during the off-season as well on Sundays, just to keep the Sunday thing going, all of that type of stuff. So, but I know, even though this is technically breaking news, I know for a lot of y'all it's probably not, because y'all been wanting Scott Turner gone. I know a lot of people out there feel like Scott Turner is the primary reason that this season has gone downhill the way that it has. Again, I've been saying it's been a mix of offensive line, a mix of quarterback, and a mix of Scott Turner, and then it's either one of those the most at any single game, but usually every game is all three of those guys' fault, or at least those three groups' fault. Quarterback play, offensive coordinator, play calling, and all of that, and offensive line. But I know a lot of y'all feel like it's solely on Scott Turner. Either a lot of y'all feel like it's mostly Scott Turner, or y'all feel like it's completely all on Scott Turner. Again, I feel like it's pretty much evenly divided amongst the three groups, but there's some games where I feel like it was Scott Turner's fault the most. There were a lot of games I felt like it was offensive line's fault the most, and then there were also a lot of games I felt like it was quarterback play the most. But Scott Turner was one of the top three reasons easily, I feel like, for this entire season and how it went downhill. And so it only makes sense. Now let's dive into the Sam Fortier article. First of all, the Washington Commanders players appear dissatisfied with offensive coordinator Scott Turner's play calling amid the team's 4-game winless streak, which has knocked them out of playoff contention, going 0-3-1. And I mean, this Cowboys game, I'm not expecting them to really go into that and win, so pretty much 0-4-1 to end the season, after having the 6th seed in the NFC playoff seed and come out of the bye week and don't win another game for the rest of the season is insane. Right there with the playoffs in your grasp, that is crazy. Sam Fortier of the Washington Post spoke with a host of players who aren't happy as the one promising season hit its low point last Sunday with a 24-10 home loss to the Cleveland Browns. Quote from the article: 9 other Commanders who spoke on the condition of anonymity to be candid about a coach, expressed frustration with the play calling. They complained about predictability and abandonment of the game plan against Cleveland and Turner's tendency to deviate from plays that are working, which several players described as the coordinator outsmarting himself. They suggested Browns defenders had anticipated their plays in the loss that effectively ended the Commanders' season. Unquote. An unnamed veteran, when asked why the team lacked a spark during the Commanders' most recent defeat, responded by saying, quote, ask the play caller, unquote. Wow. Also, tight end Logan Thomas recently told reporters that the team should be scoring more points with the amount of talent on board. Quote, the way I put it is, we got so much talent, we should be scoring more points than we have been, unquote. The article also says, one notable example occurred in the Washington Commanders' 20-12 home loss to the New York Giants on December 18th, a pivotal matchup against a fellow NFC East team fighting for a playoff spot. Commanders rookie running back Brian Robinson Jr. amassed 89 yards on 12 carries in the game. It seemed as though Washington could have kept feeding Robinson the rock with more success against what is now the second worst run defense in football. That didn't happen. And Robinson told reporters later in the week, quote, I just got to play, I can't coach. Even when I get frustrated about play calling, that's not my job. So regardless of how I feel during the game over certain plays, I just got to be where my feet are, unquote. So Logan Thomas and Brian Robinson have made it known with their names and their faces how they feel about the play calling. And then you have the other guys that anonymously just went ahead and put it all out there as well. Players also put some of the blame on Turner for the Browns' loss. Quote, several players argued that Turner had abandoned the game plan, which the team had practiced all week, in favor of drop-back passing and running concepts that at times became predictable. One example was that in 2 and 3 tight end sets, Washington ran the ball 21 of 26 times, 81%, and the Browns, one of the league's worst run defenses, caught on, which is just shameful. Football Outsiders ranks the offense 28th in DVOA, defense adjusted value over average. The team is also 25th in scoring and posted more than 23 points just once since the first 2 weeks of the year. The blame doesn't fall on Turner alone, which is my point. The offensive line simply hasn't fared well, pass blocking, and ranks 10th worst in the league in adjusted sack rate per Football Outsiders. Quarterback play has been hit or miss, with the high of a 5-1 stretch under Taylor Heineke and the low of Wentz's 3 interceptions against the Browns. The team has averaged just 192.9 passing yards per game since week 3. Still, the team has plenty of offensive talent with the two-headed running back tandem of Robinson and Antonio Gibson, and a bona fide number one wideout in Terry McLaurin, and a couple of other dynamic pass catches in Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel. And I completely agree. I feel like our skill positions, if we can get some of our tight ends back healthy, develop some of our guys, I feel like we have some of the best skill position players in the NFL as a whole. I feel like Lamar Jackson would give an organ to be able to have the receivers and running backs that we have. Like, a lot of teams are jealous of our skill positions, but at the end of the day, offensive coordinator, offensive line, and quarterback have been holding us back. They've been holding them back. And then the article also says, however, the offense simply didn't come through when it needed to the most, and now rookie quarterback Sam Howell will get a shot to show what he can do to close the regular season on Sunday against the Cowboys. And I'm really excited about that. But sticking with Scott Turner, one interesting thing that Ron Rivera has spoken on recently was when he revealed that he was asking opinions of his players regarding big decisions this season, as far as QB changes, coaching changes, all of that type of stuff. So I'm pretty sure he's asked the players about Scott Turner, and he wouldn't necessarily put that information out there. But I'm not going to lie, it sounds like Scott Turner is on his way out. And then if you really read the story by Sam 48, it sounds like Scott Turner's pretty much gone. Like, he's done. Now, it's really interesting, though, like, because who will we replace Scott Turner with? That's the very interesting part. You know Ron Rivera is extremely loyal, but he showed that he would get rid of Sam Mills, and it was a huge upgrade going from Sam Mills to Jeff Zgonina and Ryan Kerrigan with a little bit of Warren Sapp during the offseason. That was a huge difference. Our talented defensive line, our first rounders actually went out there and started to play like first rounders. Jonathan Allen is a Pro Bowler, should be an All-Pro, and Deron Payne leads our team with 10.5 sacks as an interior defensive lineman. And then Montez Sweat has had a pretty good season, some ups and downs. And then Chase Young came right in and started balling out against Trent Williams and the 49ers. And so maybe firing Scott Turner and moving on to a new offensive coordinator will have the same exact jump in production for the offense as we did with firing our defensive lines coach. And I mean, honestly, who are some candidates that we can go to? Maybe they just promote Ken Zampese from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator. Maybe there's that. Maybe Frank Wright. There's a lot of names out there, man. You have Kellen Moore from the Dallas Cowboys, who may be looking for a head coaching job. You never know. But you have him. You have Shane Steichen from the Philadelphia Eagles, and how creative that offense is and how well it's been working with Jalen Hurts. And it even goes back to the development of Justin Herbert before that. And even just to go back to Kellen Moore, I mean, the way that he had Cooper Rush out here looking. Then you have Mike Kafka from the New York Giants. I mean, look at Daniel Jones this season. I mean, with no receivers, no excuses, no receivers, and the offensive line hasn't been terrible, but it also hasn't been great. I mean, Saquon Barkley, love him, but you're always worried about him getting hurt, so they don't want to rely on him to run too much. So the offense, a lot of it has been on Daniel Jones making plays, and I feel like Mike Kafka did a great job with him. And remember, Mike Kafka came from the Kansas City Chiefs under Andy Reid while Pat Mahomes has been there. And then, of course, speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, pretty much the offensive mind behind Pat Mahomes and all of this development and success that he's had. So you have Eric Bieniemy, who's been looking for a head coaching job, but just for some reason can't get it. You have Brian Callahan from the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, Joe Burrow's development in the offense. I mean, a lot of people doubted the fact that you could draft a quarterback and then the receiver he threw to in college the following year, and it could work out with a team that just had the #1 overall pick just 2 years ago, and look at them in the Super Bowl. And most of that, I mean, granted, the Cincinnati Bengals have a very underrated run defense. Their defense overall is just very underrated. Even with them losing William Jackson to us, who a lot of people thought, oh, William Jackson's gone, their defense is going to fall off a cliff. Well, it didn't. But even beyond that, their offense became one of the most explosive, scary offenses out there doing. Now, granted, they have very underrated receivers. Like T. Higgins is dangerously underrated. And then Joe Mixon is a dog. Only went where he went in the draft because of the off-the-field stuff that happened. Y'all already know that situation with him. That's the only reason they were even able to get him when they got him. So they have a lot of offensive talent. But, I mean, a lot of people doubted a quarterback and his favorite receiver in college working out at the next level. Everybody was like, no, that's not going to work. Don't jinx all that type of stuff. Brian Callahan found a way to make it work. Then you also have Frank Smith from the Miami Dolphins with how explosive that offense has been this season. You have Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions and how he's made Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff work. And I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Jared Goff is and he's made Jared Goff look really good. I mean, you saw what they did against us with DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jared Goff in week 2, where it was one of the most embarrassing defensive displays I've seen from this team in a long time. And there's a lot of random guys out there. I mean, you have Thomas Brown Jr., the Rams assistant head coach, Matt Wise, the Michigan Wolverines co-offensive coordinator. I mean, out there making the Michigan offense. I mean, granted, they do have talent, but he made that Michigan offense a little bit better than they should have been. And I mean, ideally, best case scenario for me is we somehow find a way to trade up to get CJ Stroud and we hire Ryan Day as an offensive coordinator. That's the best case scenario by far for me. And then you have Mike McDaniels. For some reason, the Dolphins, I saw a report that they may fire him after only one season, and I felt like he was doing an amazing job. I feel like he was doing an absolute wonderful job as far as being an offensive mind for those guys. Like, maybe not necessarily Sean McVay, but he unlocked Tua and made that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill thing work that a lot of people doubted. Like, that team has a lot of talent, but Mike McDaniel definitely elevated that talent with his offensive mind, his play calling, his scheme, and all of that. And if the Miami Dolphins are playing games and thinking about firing him, we will pay you head coach money to be an offensive coordinator over here if you're willing to take that demotion real quick. It's not a lateral movement, but I mean, please pull up. You have Brian Hartline, the Ohio State passing game coordinator. Again, to Ryan Day's credit, if you could take somebody that's under him and maybe just get some of what Ohio State did against my Georgia Bulldogs, I would be really happy with that. Of course, Joe Brady, I mean, that whole situation and how he's been going around the league, you never know how that may go. He looked like a genius with LSU, being the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach for the most explosive college offense we probably have ever seen with Joe Burrow and those guys back on LSU. Man, that was scary. But then he went to the Carolina Panthers and just fell off. He just suddenly looked like he didn't know how to call plays, and then he got demoted and went to the Buffalo Bills as a quarterbacks coach. But who knows, man, maybe he can figure something out over here. But like I said, my best case scenario is Ryan Day with CJ Stroud. It literally can't get any better than that for me, honestly. I wasn't even that big of a fan of CJ Stroud until I saw what he did against Georgia, most notably because how he was able to maneuver outside of the pocket, use his legs, make off-schedule plays. That was one of his biggest weaknesses, one of my biggest question marks at the very least as far as CJ Stroud entering the draft. Then after what I saw he did to Georgia, I mean, you could argue that's the best quarterback play I've seen against my Georgia Bulldogs in the past couple of years. I mean, you could even put it up there with Bryce Young against us in the SEC championship last year. Like, that was so scary, man. CJ Stroud was on another level, and if Ryan Day can get that out of him consistently, or if we could just hire a coordinator that can, I'm excited. And like I said, you have Shane Steichen, who's the one that helped develop Justin Herbert and made him such a great quarterback his rookie season. Then he also went over there to the Eagles and made Jalen Hurts into who he is, because I wasn't a Jalen Hurts believer coming out of college, and even his first year for the Eagles, Eagles when he finally got the start and he was even making plays. I was like, I don't know. And then Shane Steichen came in and made the Eagles one of the most unstoppable looking offenses doing it. And again, they have a lot of talent, but that's not to say that we don't as well, especially if we can figure out quarterback. And again, I feel like timeline wise, if you can get your offensive coordinator here before we get our quarterback, I think that would be perfect. Now, the only problem is though, I mean, the Eagles, by the time we fire Scott Turner, because again, it looks like it's more than likely going to happen, and the time that we want to hire a new offensive coordinator, you know, he'll probably still be coaching for the Eagles. So we'll have to figure out how to make that work there as far as him. A lot of these other guys, Shane Steichen of the Philadelphia Eagles, Mike Kafka of the New York Giants, Eric Bieniemy of the Kansas City Chiefs may not be available. And Kellen Moore of the Dallas Cowboys is not available. But Brian Callahan of the Bengals is not available. It's a little ugly, man. We'll see how this hiring cycle goes. A lot of the top candidates probably aren't available, but then again, Ryan Day, you're not doing nothing, man. Pull up. Even though I don't think it's very realistic. And of course you have Sean Payton, but he probably wants to be a head coach somewhere wherever he goes. Probably not just the offensive coordinator, but that would be lovely. Sean Payton is your offensive coordinator. I mean, if he wants to become head coach, go ahead. And Lamar Jackson is the quarterback. I would love that. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Scott Turner being on the way out. I mean, it looks like the writing is on the wall. Let me know how you feel about the players speaking on it. Do you feel like they're in the right? Do you feel like they are right about Scott Turner? Of course, I'm pretty sure most of y'all do, if not all of us. And then, of course, let me know who your favorite potential candidates may be, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of sleepers out there that I did not name and I did not dive into that y'all feel like would be some great candidates. So please get in the comment section and let me know. Put me on, because I don't necessarily know everybody. So definitely get in the comment section and let everybody know how you feel about everything. And of course, I appreciate all the support, man. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And of course, shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.